My husband said not to look behind the painting. I wish I never did. It was supposed to be just another quiet night. My husband left for his night shift at the hospital, kissing me goodbye like he always did. But after the door closed, the silence felt wrong, different, heavy. I couldn't shake the feeling that something in our home had changed. That painting in the hallway, the one he'd hung 3 weeks ago, it was crooked again, for the third time this week. And when I reached up to straighten it, the air behind it felt unnaturally cold. My fingers brushed against something, and against every instinct, against his specific warning to never move it, I took the painting down. What I found hidden in that wall made me realize I'd never really known the man I married. Some secrets aren't meant to be discovered. Some walls should never be opened. And some husbands aren't who they claim to be. This is the story of what I found, what it meant, and the choice I had to make when the truth became too dangerous to ignore. Subscribe for psychological thrillers, dark mysteries, and stories that will keep you awake. Chapter 1. The Discovery. When curiosity becomes the doorway to nightmare. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 34 years old, and 3 weeks ago I discovered something behind a painting in my hallway that has made me question everything I thought I knew about my husband. I'm still trying to decide if I should have left it alone. If ignorance really would have been bliss. If some truths are better left undiscovered. But it's too late now. I know. And knowing has changed everything. This is the story of what I found, and what it cost me to find it. Let me start at the beginning, so you understand how normal everything seemed. I've been married to my husband, Dr. James Mitchell, for 6 years. We met when I was 28, and he was 33. I was a graphic designer. He was finishing his residency in emergency medicine. We had a whirlwind romance, got married within a year, and settled into what I thought was a good, stable marriage. James works night shifts at Portland General Hospital, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 3 or 4 nights a week. It's exhausting for him, but the pay is better. And honestly, I'd gotten used to having the house to myself those nights. I'd work on freelance projects, watch shows he hated, enjoy the quiet. Our home is a small craftsman bungalow in southeast Portland. 2 bedrooms, original hardwood floors, lots of character. We'd been slowly renovating it. New kitchen cabinets, updated bathroom, fresh paint throughout. 3 weeks ago, James brought home a painting. It wasn't particularly remarkable. An abstract piece, mostly blues and grays, about 2 feet by 3 feet. Not my taste, but not offensive either. "Where'd you get that?" I asked when he carried it in. "Estate sale," he said. "Thought it might look good in the hallway. Cover up that weird discoloration on the wall." He was right about the discoloration. There was an odd patch where the previous owners had removed something, and we hadn't gotten around to repainting. The painting would cover it perfectly. He hung it that evening, using one of those heavy-duty picture hangers, centered it carefully, stepped back to admire his work. "Perfect," he said. "Don't move it, okay? I hung it specifically to cover that spot. Why would I move it? You're always rearranging things. I'm just saying, leave this one alone." It was a weird thing to emphasize, but I shrugged it off. James could be particular about certain things. The first week, I barely noticed the painting. It was just there. Background decoration in a hallway I walked through a dozen times a day. But then I started noticing it was crooked. Not dramatically, just slightly off level, enough to catch my eye every time I walked past. I mentioned it to James. "That painting keeps going crooked. It's fine." "No, look, the right side is higher than the left." He glanced at it. "Looks fine to me. The house is old. The walls aren't perfectly level, but it's getting worse, like it's slowly shifting." "Sarah, leave it alone. It's fine." There was an edge to his voice, unusual for James, who's normally pretty easygoing. "I'm just saying, I heard what you're saying. The painting stays where it is." A few days later, I noticed it was crooked again, visibly, undeniably crooked. And when I walked past it, I felt a draft, cold air, coming from behind the painting. That's when I started to suspect something was actually wrong with the wall. Maybe there was a crack behind the painting that was letting in cold air from outside. Maybe that's why James didn't want me moving it, because it was covering up a problem we'd have to pay to fix. I should have just asked him. That would have been the normal, rational thing to do. But something stopped me. Some instinct that said if I asked, he'd lie, or get angry, or make me feel crazy for questioning it. So I waited. The last Tuesday was one of James's night shifts. He left for the hospital at 6:30 p.m. after dinner. "I'll probably be late," he said, kissing me goodbye. "There's a big trauma coming in. Don't wait up. Be safe." "Always am." The door closed. I heard his car start, heard him drive away, and then I was alone with the painting. But I tried to ignore it. I worked on a client project for an hour, made tea, scrolled through social media, but I kept thinking about that painting, about how crooked it was, about the cold air, about James's strange insistence that I never move it. At 9:15 p.m., I walked to the hallway and stood in front of it. It was definitely crooked. The right side was at least an inch higher than the left, and when I put my hand near it, I could feel the cold draft distinctly. "Just straighten it," I told myself. "That's not the same as moving it. You're just adjusting it." I reached up and lifted the left side slightly, trying to level it, and that's when I felt it. There was something behind the painting. Not just the wall, something else. Something that felt like a gap, an opening. My heart started beating faster. I lifted the painting off its hanger completely and set it carefully on the floor. The wall behind it looked normal. The same cream-colored paint as the rest of the hallway. The discoloration James had mentioned. But when I touched it, a section about 12 inches square felt different, hollow, and cold. I pressed gently. The wall gave slightly, like it wasn't solid drywall but something else. I pressed harder, and suddenly a section of the wall popped inward, like a hidden panel or door. My breath caught. Behind the panel was a small cavity, maybe 8 inches deep, and inside that cavity were items carefully arranged. A box, papers, photographs, a USB drive. I pulled out my phone, turned on the flashlight, and reached in. The box was first. Small, wooden, about the size of a jewelry box. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside, a driver's license. But not James's current one. The photo was definitely James, maybe 5 or 6 years younger. But the name on the license was different. Marcus Webb, different name. Same face. There was also a social security card with the same name, and a birth certificate. Marcus Jonathan Webb, born 1985 in Sacramento, California. My husband's name is James Mitchell, born 1984 in Eugene, Oregon. Or so I'd always believed. I set the box aside and pulled out the papers. They were folded, slightly yellowed. The first document was a death certificate for James Mitchell, deceased 2016. My mind couldn't process what I was reading. James Mitchell died in 2016, but I married James Mitchell in 2018. I kept reading. The death was ruled accidental, a car accident in Northern California. No surviving family listed. The second document was even more disturbing. Identity change paperwork. Legal documents showing that Marcus Webb had legally changed his name to James Mitchell in 2017. He'd taken a dead man's identity. Legally. Somehow. The photographs came next. There were maybe a dozen of them, small prints like you'd get from a drugstore. The first few showed James, or Marcus, looking younger, maybe in his early 20s, with a woman I didn't recognize. They looked happy. Couple photos, vacation pictures. But the later photos were different. Darker. Photos of the same woman. But she looked scared, bruised. In one photo, she had a black eye and was crying. The last photo showed her lying on the ground, clearly injured. Maybe worse. I felt sick. The USB drive was the last item. I pulled it out, staring at it like it might bite me. I should stop, I told myself. I should put everything back, replace the panel, hang the painting, and pretend I never saw this. But I couldn't. I needed to know. I took everything, the box, the papers, the photos, the USB drive, to my office. Locked the door even though I was alone in the house. Plugged the USB drive into my laptop. There were 3 folders on the drive. Documents, photos, and videos. I opened documents first. Artikel 5E. More identity paperwork. But this time, showing Marcus Webb's original identity. Birth certificate, school records, military discharge papers, and police records. Marcus Webb had been investigated, but never charged, in connection with the disappearance of his girlfriend Lisa Brennan in 2015. There was a news article saved as a PDF, Woman missing after domestic dispute, boyfriend questioned. The article described how Lisa Brennan, 26, had gone missing after neighbors reported hearing a violent argument at the apartment she shared with her boyfriend, Marcus Webb. Police questioned Marcus but didn't have enough evidence to charge him. Lisa was never found. Marcus was described as a person of interest who is not cooperating with investigators. I was shaking so hard I could barely control the mouse. I opened the photos folder next. More pictures of Lisa. Hundreds of them. Some normal, some disturbing. Photos of her sleeping, like he'd photographed her without her knowledge. Photos through windows. Photos that felt invasive, obsessive, and photos of her injuries. Dated, documented, like he was keeping a record of the abuse. The final photos were the worst. Lisa, clearly terrified, crying, begging, and then nothing. The folder ended. I couldn't bring myself to open the videos folder. Not yet. I was already crying, already feeling like I might throw up. The man I'd married, the man I'd shared a bed with for 6 years, was Marcus Webb, a man suspected of murdering his girlfriend, a man who'd stolen a dead person's identity to escape his past. James Mitchell wasn't my husband's real name. His whole identity was a lie. Our entire relationship was built on a false foundation. And if he'd hurt Lisa, killed Lisa, what did that mean for me? I sat in my office until 2 a.m., paralyzed with fear and indecision. Should I call the police? Should I confront him? Should I pack a bag and leave before he got home? But if I called the police, what would I say? I found a secret compartment in my wall with my husband's old identity in it. Would they even believe me? And would it put me in danger if James, Marcus, found out I'd reported him? At 2:30 a.m., I heard his car pull into the driveway. I scrambled to hide everything, shoved the box, papers, and photos back into the wall cavity, hung the painting back up. It was crooked, but I didn't care. Ran to the bedroom, turned off the lights, and pretended to be asleep. I heard James come in, heard him move through the house, heard him pause in the hallway. Was he checking the painting? Then he came to the bedroom, changed quietly, and slipped into bed beside me. I lay there, rigid, pretending to sleep, while the man who might be a murderer curled up next to me. Chapter 2. The Confrontation. When Truth Becomes Too Dangerous to Ignore. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to James, Marcus, breathe beside me, wondering if I was sleeping next to a killer. Every sound made me jump. Every time he shifted in bed, I tensed, wondering if he knew I'd discovered his secret. When morning came, he woke up like it was any normal day. "Morning," he mumbled, stretching. "How'd you sleep?" "Fine," I lied. He got up, showered, made coffee. I watched him, trying to see Marcus instead of James, trying to see the man who'd hurt Lisa, but he just looked like my husband, tired from his night shift, a little scruffy, drinking coffee while scrolling through his phone. How could someone hide such darkness so completely? Over the next 3 days, I pretended everything was normal, but I was secretly making plans. I contacted a divorce lawyer, just a consultation. Hypothetically, I asked, if someone discovered their spouse had a false identity, what would the legal implications be? The lawyer was alarmed. "If you're in danger, you need to contact the police." "I'm not in danger," I interrupted, though I wasn't sure that was true. "I just need to understand my options." I also opened a separate bank account, started moving small amounts of money from our joint account. Nothing large enough to raise suspicion, but enough that I'd have resources if I needed to leave quickly. And I copied everything from that USB drive onto a cloud storage account. If something happened to me, there would be evidence. On the 4th day, James noticed something was off. "You okay?" he asked over dinner. "You've been quiet lately. Just stressed about a client project." "You sure? You seem distant." "I'm fine, James." His eyes narrowed slightly at my use of his name. Did he notice something in my tone? Some emphasis that suggested I knew? "Okay," he said slowly. "But if something's wrong, you can tell me." "Can I?" I thought. "Can I tell you I know you're really Marcus Webb? That I know about Lisa? That I'm terrified of you?" "I know," I said instead. "I'm fine, really." And that night was another one of his shifts. He left at 6:30 p.m. like usual, but this time, I was ready. I'd packed a bag earlier, Clothes, documents, laptop, the copies I'd made of everything from the wall, hidden it in my car trunk. I waited until 7 p.m. to be sure he was really gone. Then I went back to the wall, removed the painting, and took everything. The box, the papers, the photos, the USB drive, all of it. I also took photos of the empty cavity with my phone, documenting where I'd found everything. Then I drove to the police station. The detective I spoke with, Detective Sarah Morrison, listened to my story with increasing concern. "You're saying your husband is using a stolen identity?" "Not stolen, legally changed. But yes, he took the identity of a man who died." "And you believe he's connected to this missing person case from 2015? "I don't just believe it. I have evidence. I showed her everything. The documents, the photos, the news articles, the police reports from Lisa's disappearance." Detective Morrison's expression darkened as she reviewed the materials. "Mrs. Mitchell, or should I say Mrs. Webb, this is serious. If your husband is Marcus Webb, he's been on our radar for years. The Lisa Brennan case is still open. We've never had enough evidence to charge him, but he's always been our primary suspect. What do I do? First, you don't go home tonight. Do you have somewhere safe you can stay?" "My sister's place. In Seattle." "Good. Go there. Tonight. And don't tell your husband where you're going. We're going to start an investigation immediately, but I need you safe while we do it." I left the police station feeling like I was in a nightmare. This couldn't be my life. This couldn't be real. But it was. I drove toward Seattle, my hands shaking on the wheel, checking my rearview mirror constantly to make sure no one was following me. I called my sister Megan from the road. "Sarah, what's wrong? I need to stay with you. Tonight. Maybe for a while. I can't explain everything yet, but of course. Are you safe?" "I think so. I'll explain when I get there." I arrived at Megan's apartment around 11 p.m. She took one look at me and pulled me into a hug. "What happened?" And I told her everything. About the painting, the hidden compartment, the false identity, Lisa Brennan, all of it. Megan's face went white. "Jesus, Sarah, you've been living with this man for 6 years?" "I didn't know. I had no idea. Do you think he killed that woman?" "I don't know, but I think he hurt her, and I think he's been hiding from it ever since." My phone rang. "James." I stared at it, frozen. "Don't answer," Megan said. "Let it go to voicemail." It rang 7 times before stopping. A minute later, a text appeared. "Where are you? You're not home." Sorry. Over the next hour, James called and texted repeatedly. "Sarah, where are you? Why aren't you answering? I'm getting worried. Please call me. Did something happen? Sarah, this isn't funny. Call me back." And then, at 12:47 a.m., a text that made my blood run cold. "I know you went behind the painting. We need to talk." I showed the text to Megan. She immediately called Detective Morrison. "He knows," I said when the detective answered. "He knows I found everything." "Where are you right now?" "My sister's apartment in Seattle." "Good. Stay there. Lock all the doors and windows. I'm sending Seattle PD to your location for protection, and I'm issuing a warrant for Marcus Webb's arrest. We have enough to bring him in for questioning at minimum." "What if he comes here? He doesn't know where your sister lives, does he?" I don't think so. I've never brought him here." "Then you're safe for now. But we're not taking chances. Officers will be there within 20 minutes. And the Seattle police arrived at 1:15 a.m., 2 officers who set up outside Megan's apartment building. James kept texting, "I can explain everything. It's not what you think. Please, Sarah, let me explain. I never hurt anyone. I was protecting myself. The police have it wrong. Lisa's disappearance had nothing to do with me. Please don't believe what you read. I love you. I would never hurt you." Each text felt more desperate, more manipulative. And then, at 3:30 a.m., a voicemail. I played it on speaker so Megan could hear. James's voice was different than I'd ever heard it. Not the calm professional doctor I knew. Something rawer, angrier. "Sarah, I know you went to the police. I know you took everything from the wall, and I know you think you've figured out who I am." A pause, breathing. "But you don't understand. You don't know the whole story. Lisa, what happened to Lisa was an accident. She fell. We fought, and she fell, and she hit her head. I panicked. I didn't know what to do. So I got rid of the body. I know that sounds awful. It was awful, but it was an accident. Another pause. And the identity change. That was survival. The police wouldn't believe it was an accident. They were going to charge me with murder. So I had to disappear. I had to become someone else. James Mitchell was already dead. I just borrowed his identity. Started over. I met you after all of that. When I was James, not Marcus. And I fell in love with you. Really in love. Everything about our relationship is real, Sarah. Everything. I never lied about how I felt about you. His voice cracked. I was going to tell you. Eventually. When enough time had passed. When I felt safe. But I was scared you'd leave. That you'd see me as a monster. That I'd lose you. Please. Don't let the police convince you I'm dangerous. I'm not. I would never hurt you. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Call me. Please. Let's talk about this. I can explain everything in person. I can make you understand. The voicemail ended. Megan and I sat in silence. He's lying, Megan said finally. Right? About it being an accident? I don't know, I whispered. But even if it was an accident, he covered it up. He hid her body. He stole someone's identity. He's been lying to me for 6 years. And he's trying to manipulate you now, making you feel sorry for him, making it seem like he's the victim. She was right. I could hear the manipulation in his voice, the careful crafting of a story designed to make me doubt the evidence, to make me see him as sympathetic rather than dangerous. Detective Morrison called at 7 a.m. We arrested Marcus Webb at 6:15 this morning. He's in custody. You're safe. I started crying. Relief? Fear? I didn't even know. What happens now? We're questioning him about Lisa Brennan's disappearance. With the evidence you provided, plus his own admission in that voicemail. Yes, we got a copy from your phone company. We have enough to charge him. Will he go to prison? If we can prove he killed Lisa, yes. At minimum, he'll be charged with obstruction of justice, improper disposal of a body, and identity fraud. He's not getting out anytime soon. And me? What do I do? You move forward. File for divorce. Testify if we need you to. And you get therapy. Because this is trauma, you'll need help processing. Okay, I whispered. Okay. Epilogue. 3 months later, Marcus Webb, I can't think of him as James anymore, is in jail awaiting trial. His lawyer tried to argue the voicemail was inadmissible, but it didn't work. Combined with the physical evidence and his history, the prosecution has a strong case. They also found Lisa's body, buried in a remote area of Northern California, exactly where Marcus's phone records showed he'd traveled the week she disappeared. It wasn't an accident. The forensic evidence proved she'd been strangled. The head injury he mentioned in the voicemail was post-mortem, probably from him trying to stage it as an accidental fall. He's being charged with first-degree murder. I filed for divorce the day after his arrest. It's been complicated. Do you divorce someone under their legal name or their real name? The courts are still figuring it out. I'm in therapy twice a week, processing the trauma of realizing I was married to a man who killed his previous girlfriend. Dealing with the violation of discovering our entire relationship was built on lies. Some days are better than others. I sold the house. I couldn't live there anymore, couldn't walk past that hallway without seeing the painting, without remembering what was behind it. I'm renting a small apartment downtown now. No hidden compartments. No secret pasts. Just me, starting over. Arcots, Megan asked me recently if I regretted looking behind the painting. Part of me wishes I never had, I admitted. Ignorance was easier. But you wouldn't have been safe. No, I wouldn't have. Eventually, the truth would have come out some other way. Or maybe he would have, I don't know, hurt me too. You did the right thing. I know. But knowing doesn't make it hurt less. I think about Lisa Brennan sometimes. About the life she never got to live. About how she tried to escape Marcus and couldn't. At least now she has justice. Her family has answers. She's not just a missing person anymore. And I think about all the women who don't escape, who don't find the evidence, who don't discover the truth until it's too late. I was lucky. In the worst way possible, I was lucky. I saw Rita Ritter, my husband, said not to look behind the painting. I wish I never did, but I'm glad I did. Because some secrets are too dangerous to keep hidden. Even when discovering them destroys everything you thought you knew.